Hello and welcome to episode 14 of Sheepdog Says. I'm Sheepdog, and today I was thinking about some bits that happened with my son at school and just thought it'd be entertaining to talk about some bits from when I was his age onwards. I could see a lot of myself in him, basically. His class there's something like 32 of them and only 5 of them are girls. So he's in a class where there's 28 boys, 27 boys, whatever. And they're all learning to behave and that kind of thing. They're learning how to act in school. And so as a result, it's something that everyone kind of gets these little, this is how they were today, score things and stuff like that. I feel like everything that I've done as a parent has somehow come back to punish me at some point or another along the way here. For example, we were watching TV the other day and they mentioned Chelsea Football Club on telly. I jokingly, being a Tottenham fan, went, boo, boo. And then he was jokingly saying he liked them. And then he was saying he didn't. And then we were just jokingly, whatever, you know, I told him that I just said, oh, they're cheaters, whatever, don't support them. And I'm not trying to start an argument about football, but I was joking with him about football, letting him know that they're the rivals, whatever. Apparently he went into school the next day, was watching, they had kids come in to play instruments and stuff on stage in front of all the other classes. They brought in all these like piano teachers and stuff, and it was like this is what we learn outside of school day, and they were all sat on the stage playing their instruments, and he just randomly decided to start going boo for no reason other than he thought it was funny. He didn't even know that it was something you did if people, you know what I mean, it wasn't something he was doing as a reaction to them playing, but to all the adults watching, that's what it looked like. And it was mortifying when they told us about it, because I know that he only did that because I basically booed Chelsea in front of him, thinking, what harm, you know? So I've learned a valuable lesson about being punished for just silly things that you wouldn't assume he was going to go and do out of context, but they will. It did remind me, though, of just how much like teachers just wing it when they're at school, when you're at school. Like, his teacher's telling him off for these things. They've made an assumption about something. They've decided the situation themselves. And no matter how he tells the story, their story goes because they're the teachers. I remember when I was in, I think it was year 2, and learning a valuable lesson about this. We used to have these toilets with gaps above and below the door. I imagine they're quite normal in schools. Like they were slightly lower or higher gaps. But I was quite a chubby kid. I'm chubby now. And what people used to do is climb under or over the door, leaving it locked, so it looked like someone was in there, and then you wouldn't be able to use the toilet, and someone would have to then send a caretaker around to try and unlock it or whatever. And I remember one day these guys came into our class and they said, somebody's locked all the boys' toilets. You can't get into any of the cubicles. There's nobody in there. Who did it? I must have been 6, 7, I can't remember now, and an idiot. And I basically went, well, it weren't me. And my teacher obviously was like, well, you're the only one who spoke out of the entire class, so it must have been you. So you're the one who's going to go into detention for the rest of the week and all this, that and the other. And I got punished for this, and I genuinely didn't do it. I mean, I couldn't have physically done it. I don't know what she was thinking. You know, if she'd have put 2 and 2 together at all, she'd have realised it weren't me. But it makes me wonder as an adult whether she was just punishing me for something else that I'd got away with. Like maybe I should have got a red card earlier in the day, and, you know, she's decided, oh, I'll get him on that. But it did start making me think, well, they just decide what they want to decide. And it's one of those things that sticks with you. I remember in that same class, they had a fire alarm outside the classroom door. And people used to just tap it, and just look at it, you know, almost like playing chicken with it. And I remember one day walking past it and just doing it and accidentally setting it off, and everyone comes flooding out, and I was like, oh, I lifted my bag up and nudged it, and I mean, they fell for it. I can say it now, it's been like 25 years since it happened. They fell for it, and they had to evacuate the whole school at like 3:10 on a weekday. Everyone got sent home late, and it's one of those things where I'm like, oh my word, what a little monster. But yeah, part of me was just like, they're only going to punish whatever they see or think, and if you're just quick enough, they assume that you're not quick enough to think or that you're stupid enough to say, so they fell for it. It was on them. I was quite mixed at primary school. I wasn't a particularly bad kid. I was a stupid kid, like naive, or I used to get upset about everything as silly like that. I was a bit wet, I reckon. But I remember being in year 6 and we had a cover teacher. She came in, our teacher was off for whatever reason. We had this woman come in for the day, And a cover teacher's like a red flag to a bull for me. I mean, I reckon if all my colleagues were off at work and they sent a cover boss in, I reckon I wouldn't be able to resist the urge to just misbehave and be naughty. Not that I'd do that on any normal scenario, but like if my wife went away and they just sent a cover wife in, I'd just misbehave. That's just in my nature. But we had this teacher in, and she was just trying to crack on with the day. I don't know what filler nonsense she wanted us to do, and I was just a nightmare. I was just like not literally swinging off the walls, but pretty much I just was relentless. I wouldn't let her get a word in. I wouldn't let her settle anything down. I was all over the place, and I just thought, you're not going to do anything because you're a cover teacher, and whatever you say, it ends today. That's it. There's no comeuppance here. And I actually genuinely thought that was the case. Like the next day the teacher come back in, oh good, fine, got on with it, no problems, left the school. Not a dream, not a problem, not a dream, not a problem. Life was a dream. Went to secondary school, and then about a month into my my first time at secondary school, I'd never had homework before, so I wasn't doing it, and then I was getting in trouble for not doing homework, which was silly because instead of just saying to me like, you just need to do it, that's the answer, which I probably did do, and maybe I don't know, keep me in at lunch to do it or whatever. They just kept escalating it, and I wasn't getting in the habit or whatever, and I didn't really understand it. And then they sent me to the, I think it was the head of house, so he's like a senior member of the staff at school. And as I walked in the door, he said, my wife warned me about you. And I was like, what? Okay, why, how, who? And he said, oh, 6 months ago, she took your class for a year 6 lesson at this school. And she said that in all of her years as a teacher, you were the worst student she had ever taught. And I looked at him a bit like, how has this happened? How has this random woman who came out of nowhere, how is she the wife of the person who's in charge of me now I'm at school and I'm here for 5 years? You're in charge of me for 5 years. How has this happened? And he was like, I'm going to keep an eye on you. I've been preparing for this. I knew we'd meet, and all. He's giving me this whole lecture about how he knew we'd cross paths. It wouldn't be long before I was in front of him. And I couldn't believe it. What are the odds? So I'd like to say that I behaved at school and that was the end of that. And yeah, nothing, not another crossword was said, but that's not the case at all. I reckon in my time at school, I totted it up at one point. I looked through reports and stuff, and I'd had over 60 detentions. I had all sorts of silly things happen. I accidentally, and it was definitely accidentally, smashed a window once. I pushed a door. It swung way too far around, shattered a piece of glass. I was just like, and when you have that, do I run? do I go and tell an adult? And I think what I decided to do was run to class. So I went and told my teacher. By the time I told my teacher, someone else had kind of tracked me down and said, what had happened? And I was like, I have literally just told them. I think I'd seen the sense just enough to tell them. I could have just ducked in and sat down and it would have gone completely wrong. It would have been a terrible move. But I was honest and said, look, yes, it was me. I think my parents had to pay £100 and something for the glass, which is mortifying again, because, yeah, I just shouldn't have. I didn't think I'm going to kick the door open, but it's one of those where your card's kind of marked, isn't it? So everyone assumes you did it on purpose. I remember these girls saying, did you mean to smash it? And then you're like, do I just go, yeah, because I'm really bad and, I'm cool. But I was just like, no, not really. I remember being hauled in front of the head one time because I stupidly forgot my place, I guess, and was walking along the school field and just shouted to this guy Dan in my class. I was like, Dan, you B. The PE teacher was like, what? Like, you can't swear, go to the head. And I had to go sit in front of the head, and he genuinely said to me, if you swear one more time, I'm going to have to expel you. And I genuinely thought he was telling the truth. I genuinely thought that I was going to get expelled if I swore one more time and got caught for it. I'm pretty sure that is the one thing I did not do in the rest of my time at school. I was still a nightmare. I think I grew up a bit, but it became more about knowing when to play the game and when to be naughty. Like, we had an English teacher who didn't really like doing drama, and I didn't like doing drama. And he used to, if the class was naughty, he'd put the letter D on the board. And if he spelt out drama, he cancelled drama entirely. So he'd put the D up, and then I'd go nuts until he put the R up. And I don't think he ever got the game, but everyone in my class got the game because it was like I wanted to get the R in on the board, and then I'd be fine. And I'd just misbehave and argue with him and cause trouble and be disruptive. And then he'd put the R on, and I'd just go back to normal. And he'd never understand why. He'd just think it was really weird or that his threat worked. But other students would cotton on, and they'd try and be naughty to get him to put the R on the board as well. And I'd usually win, but there'd be certain times when I wouldn't win and someone else would get it before me. And we'd always be like, damn you, you foiled me. But if he'd have had any sense, he'd have just put DR up straight away, and we'd have all been like, no one wants to win the A or the M, yeah. We didn't do drama for the whole of year 10 and 11. I don't know, I must have moved from his class midway through year 11. I don't know whether we just didn't do drama at all, but I didn't do drama for the whole of my GCSE 2 years. I hope there was no one in my class who was going to be the next, Leonardo DiCaprio, and I just ruined their acting career. But, you should have been in a better English class if that was your case. I remember I had a really odd thing where I was in group 3 for everything, and group 1 was the best. And then for certain groups, I got moved up. And one of them was, for example, French. I was being taught by a French lady who got me to a really good standard. So they moved me into group 1. And then the woman in that class, who, by the way, her name was Miss Penis, Penis, 2 separate words. And that was nowhere near as big of a joke as it should have been. That should have been the most hilarious thing ever, but I don't remember anyone at all really connecting the dots and going nuts about it. Maybe I just never really had her or whatever, but she, just as I walked into her class, she left to have children, and we ended up with this woman for a bit who was like a cover teacher. So again, of course, I was being naughty. We had this really weird scenario where my German teacher's yoga teacher took over our French class because they couldn't find anybody else, and he was terrible. I think I was just naughty for him because I just took offence to the fact that it was our GCSE year and we were being taught by a yoga teacher. I didn't do any work for him. It was a nightmare. I still ended up with a C. I ended up with C's and B's in pretty much everything, so I did all right. But I don't remember, because I'm going to blame him, but also the fact that I just probably didn't revise. But for my French exam, I just kept saying "je ne comprends." And then at the end of the exam, the teacher said to me, "What were you trying to say?" And I said, "I was trying to say I don't understand." And she said, "That's not French for I don't understand. I don't know what you... I can't... You might have been saying something in other languages mixed together, but you weren't saying I don't understand." And I was mortified. I don't know how I managed to see in that, despite absolutely failing the oral. If it's anything like teaching now, they probably just didn't submit me for checking, because I've learned, as I became a teacher as an adult, that they only check like a handful of students. Everybody else just gets the grade that they were basically assigned by 5 years of judging the hell out of them. So if the school needed me to get a C, then they just gave me a C because that's what they needed. I know that Kev recently, Leloujo recently did a video about how GCSEs are pretty much meaningless. And he's right, to be honest. Most students are just getting a grade plucked out of thin air based on the teacher's opinion of them for the 5 years they were there. Which is why I should have learned to give a different scenario, give a different perception of me. I mean, it was odd, actually. Some teachers liked me and some didn't. I think the head kind of liked me. I had a time where I stopped a friend's brother from going into the school and essentially threw him out the door during lunchtime, and he went and told the head, and the head come and spoke to me and said, like, "Why are you throwing him out the door?" And I said, "Oh, I didn't. I just told him to get out." And he went, "Where's your prefect badge?" And I said, "I don't have one. I'm not a prefect." And he went, "Oh, we'll see about that." And he went and made me a prefect. And then I got to do it legitimately every day for like most of the year. It meant I got into lunch early and stuff like that. But then one day I had an argument with a teacher and said something stupid like, "I can't wait to leave so I can tell you what I think about you." And then I ended up having the badge taken off me. But by that point, everyone was used to seeing me go into school, into lunch early, standing around in the hallways with other prefects and stuff. So other than the fact I didn't have the badge, nobody knew I wasn't a prefect. I still got away with all the benefits and just didn't have to really do any of the work. Because if anyone said, "Why aren't you doing anything about this?" I'd say, "I'm not a prefect anymore." But yeah, so what I'm essentially saying is it's my fault my son's probably having issues adjusting at the moment. I have learned valuable lessons from being naughty, so I know what he's likely to do, when he's likely to do it, that sort of thing. I'm kind of... I was going to say nothing you can do will shock me, but so far everything he's done has shocked me. And my friends have all laughed, saying they know full well that he is going to be exactly the same as me, and it feels like that is going to be the case. I have loads more of these sorts of stories. I mean, it goes on right the way through to even when I met Kev at university. I remember getting pulled aside one day, being told that I talked too much because I'd be getting all the work done. Because I really focused at uni, I just would get the work done. It'd be fine. I'd get it. I understood it. I did some effort. So we'd just chat, but then other people weren't really up to speed and they found it a nightmare. I'll go into those sorts of stories later on. If people like this video, I'll do a follow-up one. But it's interesting now as a parent because my daughter's 9 and she didn't really have any of these behavioury issues. I'm sure it'll all come when she's much older and I'll have to be fighting all of her boyfriends. But my son just seems to be following the exact pattern of something silly happens or something impulsive happens, or I'm waiting for him to set off a fire alarm. God forbid he does it, because that's probably the one I'm most like, oh, why did I do that? Especially because it was right before home time. But anyway, that is a brief whistle-stop tour of my just cartoonish upbringing, all the stupid things, the way I'm a bit silly and a bit naughty. I'm sure people who know me can tell me, remind me of stories that I've not included here. Last time I did a video like this, I just kept getting messages from people I know who'd watched the video and said that they remembered X, Y, and Z. But yeah, let me know of your funny stories, I guess, in the comments. Any questions? Make sure you press subscribe. I think I put it around here normally. Hit like, because I like to see little likes, and just make sure you share the word, because I want to get to 1,000 subscribers, sorry. And yeah, I think we can do it. I've set my target for June. I'm hoping we'll smash it. I'm nearly at 200. If we can get to 200 by the end of the weekend, that'd be awesome. And then I've only got another 800 to go, which after 14 videos, that's pretty impressive. Thanks very much for watching. Hope you have a good evening, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you very much.